All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Building Your Brand. This is a presentation put on through the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Grant. Rural Action is the lead on. It's part of their Whole Farm Planning series. Tonight, we're going to be joined by Delia Palmisano, ACENET'S multimedia designer, and myself, Bailey Grinnert. Delia is going to teach us a bit about building your brand, whether you're a farmer, artisan, producer, or really anybody that is producing a product and you want to market yourself. So this will be presentation kind of on the building blocks of how to do that for yourself. Delia, I'll just let you take over.
Great. Just checking, can you all see the slideshow? Bailey?
Looks good to me.
All right, sweet. All right, so yeah, welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about building your brand. A lot of this is kind of related to visual content, which is kind of my area here at ACENET. Many of you have probably heard of ACENET before, but in case you haven't, or just kind of as a reminder, just kind of wanted to tell you about our mission. So ACENET stands for the Appalachian Center for Economic Networks. We are a community-based economic development organization, and we serve the 32 counties of Appalachian, Ohio. Our mission is to grow the regional economy by supporting entrepreneurs and strengthening economic sectors. So we work in a lot of different sectors, obviously the food sector. We work with a lot of different wood products, tourism, et cetera. But really what it comes down to is supporting entrepreneurs, whether they're kind of at the very beginning of their business or more established entrepreneurs. So tonight, as we mentioned, what we're going to be talking about is branding and marketing. Logos, labels, packaging design, getting into websites a little bit, photography and design tips and best practices, and then social media tips. So I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to kind of break these down into different elements, and Bailey's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, please feel free to just take yourself off mute and pipe in. And I see actually someone in the chat already. Oh, Katie's here. Hi, Katie.
Hi, everybody. Oh. Sorry, I'm having some internet issues, but glad to be here.
Awesome. We are just getting started, so you are all good. All right. So branding and marketing, one of the things I find with our ACENET entrepreneurs and clients is that people are often really intimidated by this word marketing and branding. So let's kind of break it down. Like, what does that even mean? So branding is defined as a marketing tool used to differentiate products and create aspirations for and in the customer through different media and associated perceptions. That's kind of a mouthful. Let's simplify that a little bit here. Oh, we've got someone in the waiting room. All right. So what is branding? So branding can be marketing of your product. It can build trust with your clients. It identifies what your product is. It creates value. It can be design, visual design. It can be logos, strategy, and advertising. Really, what that comes down to is branding is everything that happens each time you or your business interacts with anyone in your community or your target audience. So you think about visual contact, you think about talking to somebody, you think about all the different print channels, online channels, etc. Branding can also be seen as a commercial process of storytelling. Personally, this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I think that storytelling is really important. It tells people who you are, where you come from, what your goals are, what you aspire to be. That story can then be applied to your good or service or your product and tied into your brand, tied into your business's identity. And research really shows that consumers view what they buy as an extension of themselves. So I just want to state that again. Consumers view what they buy as an extension of themselves. The reason I say that twice is because I think a powerful brand story really needs to be authentic. right? So you're starting a business, so obviously the goal is to make a profit, right? But it also still needs to be really authentic to your mission and to your vision. A powerful brand story also explains who you are, what is your product, where are you located, where can they buy the product, when can they buy it, and why should they care about you? A brand story captures attention, builds trust, gains customers. So again, think about that visual that we had with the wheel. It's all those different things. I want to look at one brand example before we kind of break these into different elements. Many of you are probably familiar with Blaney Family Farm. I think that they have done an excellent job with their brand storytelling, and I want to break apart a couple of the elements that they've done. So these are just screenshots from their website. You can see on the left one here that they've got their logo here. You know, it feels very homey. It reinforces that visual content, that family farm. On their main homepage here, you see the very top thing that they talk about is their story. So that gets at why we should care, who they are, why we should support these farmers. When you click on our story, you get to the image on the right side. You see the image of what their farm looks like, this beautiful image with a sunset, the dog. It kind of sets the tone. As you get then into their social media, you see that image is reinforced. So as people interact with the different elements of their brand, they're visually reinforced. They're recognizing that. And that's really an important element as well in building your brand. Okay, so that's kind of the overview. Let's think about where to start, what you need to begin your visual branding process. This may sound really, really obvious, but you need to have your business name. This is something that you want to have set in stone before you get started creating the visual content, because it's a lot easier to have it set in stone than have to change it over and over visually. Something else I think really important is a tagline for your business, and I'll explain that a little bit more in the next slide. And then obviously, if you're starting a business, you want to know what your main goal or service is. So you kind of have to have a solidified reason for starting your business and a product. All right, so the importance of a tagline. Sorry, need a sip of water. All right, so taglines help explain more about your business and can influence your brand's key visuals. So oftentimes your logo can stand alone, but even if you have a really great logo with a brand name in it and you feel it's self-explanatory, it's really good to have a single line with usually no more than 4 words that helps hook your audience in. You see some of the examples here on the right side. So Allstate, you're in good hands. Allstate might not necessarily explain what the brand is, and the tagline helps reinforce it. Obviously, we all recognize Nike and Just Do It. It really grabs you in. It's kind of a call to action for your customers. ACENET, you know, Appalachian Center for Economic Networks is kind of a mouthful, and having the acronym ACENET along with growing our regional economy helps reinforce what our brand is, what it is that our nonprofit does. And then rural action as well, thriving communities, healthy environments. And again, you see here at the bottom left, the tagline is something that you also kind of want to brainstorm. I recommend kind of just jotting down words, because the tagline is something that's going to stick with your business for a long time. So you want it to be something that reinforces your brand, that you know, you take some time thinking about. So once you have the tagline and you have the brand name and you have the product, you need to start thinking about the visual content. So a logo is something that your whole entire brand builds upon. So you just see a few examples here. We've got Brownwood Farms, you know, single color, kind of a rustic feel to it. Pancho Picante is a hot sauce, and then the Athens Bicycle Club. Okay, so what is a logo? What does a logo do? Logos essentially are used to identify your business, your organization, etc. It's something that you can build upon for print materials, for website, for social media, etc. A logo is one of the first. Oh. All right, sorry. Logo is one of the first things your customers sees from your business. So you want to make sure that it conveys your business as professional, trustworthy, provides quality goods, etc. And like I said, it is really the foundation of your business's branding. You can have various styles for your logo. You can see the 4 over here on the right side are obviously recognizable to all of us and have very different styles, right? So Coca-Cola it's just letters and it is completely recognizable. Whereas Mac, we all recognize this, but you don't even see the word Macintosh. You don't see Apple, it's just the Apple. And then Pepsi and Walt Disney are kind of a combination of words and images. So there are various principles that you want to think about when you are designing your logo or thinking with a designer on your logo. You want it to be simple. It needs to be easy to understand and recognize immediately. You want it to be distinct. So it's great to get inspiration from the competition, but you don't want it to look exactly like your competition. You want to make sure it stands out from the rest. Timeless. There are definitely companies that go through rebranding process, but I would advise against having something that is super trendy, that's going to be out of style within a couple years. And adaptable, you want to have something that you can adapt visually to go along with modern trends, but also be adaptable to different platforms. Think about social media. You need something that can be used in a round way, labels, website, etc. All right. So when we think about then the visual elements, what are the visual elements of a good logo? They can be really simple. They can be very complex. You know, you think about the Brownwood Farms, that was a little bit more of kind of a sketch look to it. Macintosh is very simple, one color, no shading or anything. So you want to take these components into consideration to make your brand as specific to you as possible. So what is the feeling that you're trying to convey with your logo? And personally, as a visual person, I think that this is where the fun comes in, when you're able to customize your brand to reflect you. And then breaking that down further, the key components for a good logo are typography or text, colors, and then graphics or imagery. So typography, in case you're not familiar, there are thousands of fonts out there that are free and available to you. Google Fonts is a great place to get free fonts instead of just the standard ones that are loaded on your computer. Some you have to buy, of course. Each font can be categorized in a handful of types, and they bring different emotions along with them. So you can see a serif, that's the one with the kind of little legs on it. It's a little bit more of a sophisticated style, scholarly, a little bit more established. Sans serif is more contemporary. It's a lot easier to read, kind of has a friendly feel to it. You've got script or hand-drawn, which is pretty self-explanatory, but looks like someone drew it with their hand, and decorative. The script and the decorative, I would advise against using that for your entire logo or branding. It tends to be hard to read, whereas a sans serif or a serif is much easier to read. Color is another great way to bring life and bring personality into your logo. It's a big motivator when it comes, color psychology is a big motivator when it comes to picking colors for your brand. So you want to think about the feeling that you're conveying. You can choose one color that's really minimalistic. I would recommend no more than 4 colors. And, some of this you all may already know, but, reds, orange, yellows are warm colors, greens, blues, purples are cooler. You can mix and match. It really just depends on, the brand story that you're trying to tell. So let's look at a couple examples of color theory. So here we have Lap It Up. You can see that they've kept things really simple and the colors change depending on the flavor, depending on the color then matches the flavor. Once you have established your typography and your logo and your color, I recommend putting together a style guide. A style guide is something that helps you keep your branding materials consistent and, again, visually reinforcing your brand. So thinking back to the first example I showed of the Blaney family farm, they have that branding, they have the style guide consistent so that it's easily recognizable across different platforms. So you see here just an example from Pancho Picante from the hot sauce, and then from our ACENET'S style guide as well. So once you have the logo, the next step with your product, specifically with food, would be labeling. Here you have some great examples from Snowville Creamery. They have just gone through a rebranding process, but it again is recognizable to the way their brand previously looked. It's consistent across different packaging, different products, and then their website as well. Here's another example for labeling. You can see really complex, kind of illustrative with Frog Ranch and with Vino de Milo. And then you here see Ted's pepper butter on the right side. That again uses a really simple design and varies the color based on the flavor. I'm not going to get into regulations too much with labels, but obviously that's a concern when you're selling your product as well. You can see ingredients and nutrition fact panels and things like that on Ted's. Another part about building your brand that can be really complex or can be pretty simple are websites. Again, you want it to be consistent with your brand, with your images, with your logo, and with the story that you're trying to tell. And I want to point out that Frog Ranch here again has the tab where they're talking about their story. I can't reinforce enough how important it is for customers to connect with who you are. Again, Snowville, consistent branding across, really beautiful imagery. So I want to throw out just kind of some basic design tips. When you're hiring a professional designer, it's really important to have your name, your tagline, an idea of your mission before you meet with the designer. They can help guide you through some things, but that's really something, if it's your business, you need to be thinking about ahead of time. The designer is then able to help you kind of hash out those things a little bit more. It's also a great idea to have preferences with imagery, colors, typography, but also, be open to what the designer might suggest to improve upon the idea. If you don't decide to hire a professional designer for budget, or you have someone within your own team who's creating the branding, that's great. I recommend utilizing any free resource you can. We're going to be recording this presentation, so hopefully there'll be some tips that you might want to come back to in the future. Canva is a great design program. It's really user-friendly, and I've seen some great logos and promotional material come out of it. Adobe Express is also free. It's similar to Canva, and if you have any of the Adobe products, it works really well to kind of sync across the different programs. You can get inspiration from websites like Pinterest. Obviously, I'm not advocating for any plagiarizing, but I think building upon inspiration is great. And then, your website, there are templates like Wix which are really easy to just kind of get started while you're building your brand if you don't have a big budget to hire a designer. Here's just a screenshot from Pinterest. I just put in salsa branding since I've shown you a couple different salsa products. I think, like I said, it's great to just get visual inspiration as you're thinking about building your brand. So the next thing, once you've kind of gotten your logo together that you want to build upon with your brand, that Bailey will get into some of the ins and outs of social media a little bit more, but I wanted to just kind of talk about visual storytelling really quick, and just kind of have you hear the stat that we are visual creatures and we process images 60,000 times faster than text. So just think about that as you're thinking about visual storytelling. Your images need to stand out, right? So you can see these Athens, Ohio, you can see Ohio's winding road. They use really bright visual images to capture attention. And again, just kind of building on that idea of show, don't tell, because images capture you faster than reading something. Some quick photography tips. It's great to hire a professional. That's not always within the budget for people. And so I would encourage you to use the resources that you have. Most of us, I don't know if everyone here does, but I would assume most of us has a phone with a camera, and the cameras now are usually pretty good. So I would encourage people to create their own content. A few tips to create good content with your phone. Get wide images, scene setting images, get medium images, get tight or detail images. So vary the way that you're visually showing things. I would recommend using your feet to get closer to an image you want instead of zooming in with your phone. The quality just isn't there. People love faces. If you're putting things on social media, showing people's faces are really important. And then just some basic photography creative devices. You can see some examples here on the right. Dominant foreground or contributing background. So thinking about layering your images to add visual appeal. Juxtaposition. So putting two things that are maybe different next to each other to kind of stand out visually. Introducing color to a monochromatic scene. So again, it captures your eye. Leading lines, draw your eye into something. Framing, silhouette, decisive moments are always really interesting to see. Focusing on a specific part of the photo. Quality of light, just like the image from Blaney's. Rule of thirds, so framing something in 1/3 of the image. And then point of view, look up, look down. Think about different ways to view things to draw in the person that you're wanting to look at your website or look at your social media and eventually become a customer. And I'm going to turn it over to Bailey to talk a little bit more about social media, and then we'll have time for questions at the end.
Thanks, Delia. That was excellent information, especially all that photography. When we think about social media and branding ourselves, whether
Sorry.
So with social media, and y'all I'm sure know this, it's a visual sort of storytelling. So whether it's Facebook or Instagram, which are typically photography and video based, or also threw in there TikTok and YouTube. I'm not going to go into TikTok or YouTube so much, but those are also effective ways of telling your story and branding yourself and getting your message out there. You can go to the next one. So why is social media important for your business? It's a free marketing tool. You can increase your brand awareness, and it's a one-stop shop where customers can see photos of whatever the products you're making. They can read reviews. On Facebook and Instagram specifically, they can view your location, your description, your hours, and then also access your website and your contact information. You can also link your shop through both of those apps. I see that happening a lot more on Instagram lately, where people will use the online shop element of the app to sell products through the Instagram app. That's something to consider if you have a physical product that you sell. Social media also allows you to run special offers and deals. You can boost posts by spending money on ads, and you can also schedule posts in advance, so you're using your time more efficiently. And then also, most importantly, followers can become customers. You're building a customer base through your following, getting people interested in what you're selling. So as far as platforms go, I'll get into Facebook and Instagram. Those are typically the ones that our clients use, and just generally anybody who's producing something tends to be using. Facebook is at this point an older demographic, but there are 2.9 billion users, so it's pretty worthwhile to have a Facebook account, and especially with the whole rebranding of Facebook as Meta, you can use the business suite features and manage your Facebook and Instagram account through that business suite. Facebook is best used for information-based content, event planning and sharing, informing, and especially informing through images, videos, ads, and links. That's one of the strengths of this platform. You can share links and events through Facebook much more easily than you can Instagram or any of the other social media platforms. And also maintaining and connecting with an established local audience. You can tailor your ads to specifically local customers, and that has been successful for a lot of small businesses. When you've got a small budget, and say you've got $30 to $50 per month that you can afford to spend on ads, you want to make sure you're hitting the target audience and the local people in Southeast Ohio or Central Appalachia that are actually going to be buying your product. Yeah. So Facebook, getting started, you want to grow your online presence, create a business page, and capture your audience in seconds with a recognizable profile picture, kind of like what Delia showed from Blaney Family Farm. You want to have visually appealing photos and consistent photos throughout your different platforms. You want to add a relevant about section, maintain your brand consistency and style, and join Facebook groups or start your own and contribute to ones that exist. For posting, we'd recommend posting a few times a week to keep your page active and keep the audience engaged in your content. You want your posts to be relevant, but don't overdo it. Some people get into the mode where they're constantly sharing, and it is good to share posts from people throughout your network, but you don't want to necessarily be just sharing several posts a day to stay active. It's good to tailor it down to relevant posts that you want to share within your own products or your network. The best hours to post are typically 1 to 4 p.m. and that varies, but it's just a general rule of thumb. People tend to be scrolling at work, and that's a general time when you might catch some of your Facebook audience. Boost posts with paid ads. That's something I'd mentioned before. Respond quickly on Facebook. Through Messenger, customers expect a quick response, and you can set it up where if that is your front-facing sort of messaging for your business, I think Facebook Messenger can be useful that way. I see some businesses use it, others don't. It's kind of a personal preference thing. Try not to ignore posts from customers or people engaging with your content. I mentioned the Meta Business Suite through Facebook. It's a way to track your progress and use various tools like ads and organizing events on the back end of Facebook. So you can analyze your page's performance, see who you're connecting with. It breaks it down into the demographics. So like male, female, just broad things like what regions you're pulling the most audience from. Usually it'll be Athens, Ohio, if you look at the analytics side of any of our local business pages, but you might be surprised seeing the back end of, you've got a bunch of New York City audience, or it's kind of interesting how that works depending on your product. You can also schedule posts and connect to Instagram through this feature. So the other main platform that most small businesses market through is Instagram. It's typically a younger demographic with over 1 billion users, and it's best used for image and video content, and it's really been pivoting as a platform toward video content in the last couple of years. So I have been recommending to our clients and anybody who's trying to sell a product using this platform to try to post more video content than still photos. But all of the tips that Delia included as far as your photography best practices apply here. And then I would also just include, start taking more videos. In the same way that you would of your products or events or different things you want to promote, taking little, like even 4 or 5 second clips of videos come in handy with the Reels feature, which is kind of what Instagram is promoting as like it's almost like the TikTok for Instagram. And that has become a really effective way to kind of show your brand and spread information, tell stories, and then also these other things like photography, lifestyle, and products. All of that can be promoted in the same way that still photos are used, but through videos. And I'd say on the Instagram front, that would be my biggest recommendation to anyone trying to promote themselves, would be just a pivot toward video. Reaching new audiences is a great thing with Instagram through the hashtag features and kind of getting discovered through many new audiences that you wouldn't have previously. And then there's also using social media influencers. I've known some smaller towns throughout the region and the Ohio tourism, I think it's Tourism Ohio. They typically have been using these kind of social media influencers. It might not apply to your product or service, but I have noticed more of that. People who are paid to just do social media influencing on TikTok or Instagram, who get paid to visit your town or come stay on your farm as like an agritourism thing. So that's something to consider. Getting started on Instagram, you want to gain followers. So if you're a business, you want to start your Instagram as a business page. You also want to think about all of these photography and video ideas as far as having a visually appealing feed. You want to have high resolution, quality, and composed photos. You want to keep your brand consistent and have a sort of style element to it, whether it's color or font or whatever it is that you've defined as your style or whatever feels right to you. Just keep it consistent. Use hashtags. That's kind of gone back and forth. It seems like people used to say use fewer hashtags and make them just relevant to what you're posting. Seems like nowadays using several hashtags doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, I think we lost you, Bailey.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's see. So setting up your Instagram page, here's what
I think we were at, uh-oh.
All right, I can pick back up there. Yeah, I was talking about hashtags. Did you hear any of that? No. All right, sorry. So using hashtags, you can be found by a wider audience on Instagram. I would use several of them and also tag your network partners. So say if ACENET is making a post and it's relevant to rural actions work, it's good to tag rural action. And that's something I didn't mention about Facebook, but it's also good to do that. Tag your partners wherever you can. And then follow similar accounts and customer accounts to further promote that network. So getting started with an Instagram account as a business, this is what it would look like on your end. Some of you might know this already. When you're starting a profile, you can actually go in and either be an individual or a business and go through a list of different organizations that fit whatever your product or service is. So you can see I've screenshotted on here that we're a nonprofit, but you can see there's lots of different options. Farmer is one of them. There's hundreds of different options you can scroll through. You can also put your business information, contact info, your address, and your website where people can access your information. And for posting, I'd recommend posting a few times per week. If that's too much for your schedule, you can use different apps like Hootsuite and others to schedule posts. I would say just to keep your account active and engaged, at least post once per week, ideally a few times per week. Reels and photos of people tend to be popular. Sharing stories, so literally using the share feature to post to your story is a good way to just keep your account active and your audience engaged. I already mentioned using hashtags, tag partners, and promote your network, especially if you're a farmer, an artist, anybody who is working with others in your field or going to similar events where you want to promote your work and promote events that you're in. You can also boost posts using paid ads. It's a similar feature. You can use Instagram alone to do that, or if you have Facebook and use the Meta Business Suite, you can schedule it all through that and budget whatever fits your income, really. Like 30 to 50 a month would be modest, but you could reach a wider audience just spending, 30 bucks a month boosting a post here and there. You can also update your customers and share info readily this way. I think Blaney Family Farm is a great example of this. They typically update their customers through Instagram, through different like live or posts, whether they're going to be at the farmer's market or posting what products they're going to have on Saturday mornings, when they're restocking in the local stores, where you can find their lettuce at Kindred or the pharmacy or Siemens. And they also are a good one. They respond quickly to comments and messages. They're very engaged with their audience. So in Instagram, there's a few different ways that you can post. So there's still photos, just regular photography. And then there's the reels, which are a whole video element. And then you can post to your story. So these are different examples of what that looks like. And this is from the ACENET Instagram account. We've got a few different versions of what we post. This is the insights on Instagram. So it's kind of the back end that I mentioned, similar to Facebook, where you can go in and see who you're reaching through your account. So what the demographics of your audience are, how many people have played your videos or viewed your photo posts, how many times they've been liked, how many times they've been shared, saved, etc. And here's a few time-saving tips with social media. You can link your accounts, like I mentioned with Facebook and Instagram, since they're all under one parent company. You can link them and share things pretty easily that way, so you're not having to duplicate your work. You can schedule posts in advance through the Meta Business Suite or through a variety of other apps and websites that offer that service. Hootsuite is one that some of our clients use. They allow for just the ease of management and flexibility with your schedule, so you're not having to type up a post every single day or in the moment. You can kind of plan it out in advance. Get in the habit of taking pictures and videos. That's probably the biggest takeaway of this. Just get in the habit of taking high quality photos that can be used to promote yourself and your brand, and take plenty of videos. Short ones that are high quality are ideal for modern social media. And also create a plan that works for you and your schedule. So like I mentioned, maybe you want to get set up with these different apps that allow you to schedule out in advance, so you can use your time to run your business, or you've got a busy schedule. You can choose when you're posting and make the most of all of these platforms. I think that's about it on our end. If there's any questions, you can open this time to questions from the audience. Feel free to put things in the chat.
I have a quick question. As far as like social media goes, I've always heard like all engagement's good engagement, like for the algorithm or whatever. But like, what are some best practices if someone leaves like an unflattering review or something like that, or like says like, I got some of your tomatoes and they had worms in them, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I'd say a best practice on that front. You can't avoid some of those things. If it's a review, you can usually respond to the review and kind of explain the situation or apologize. I would say that would probably be your best move on a review type comment. But I've also noticed there's lots of just kind of spam and fake accounts and things, and people who want to pick fights on the internet, as I'm sure y'all know. So a lot of the nonprofits and small businesses who I've seen experiencing that will just kind of like curate a little bit. So they'll go through and remove comments if they're, I guess, negative in a way that is not constructive. So kind of spammy type stuff, or otherwise unflattering. Does that answer your question?
I see in the chat here, Robin put, can you talk a little about doing a newsletter, tips, frequency, content, length, and best platforms? That's a great question. I would say, kind of starting with frequency, it really depends on your availability. I would say however your availability is, you want to keep it consistent. So if you feel like starting out, you can do it monthly, that's usually a good practice. I know other people who do it quarterly because that's their availability. What I like to do with newsletter content is just start however you want to start a list, a spreadsheet, etc., and put the months out and start brainstorming ideas. So as you think of an idea, if you're doing it monthly and you think, hey, I want to promote this thing in October, you jot the idea down. And then when it's time to promote your newsletter, you have that already there. And kind of, again, with the content, like Bailey talked about, you really just want to get in the practice of creating that content so that when you want to send a newsletter out or put a post together, you have it at your fingertips. So at ACENET, we really Bailey and I try and bring our cameras with us wherever we go, or Bailey uses her phone a lot. And we're always kind of gathering content so that we have it ready to go. As far as platforms, Constant Contact is a really good one, because then you can also create kind of the list with all of your contacts in there. Length really depends on what your business is and what you want to promote. I don't know, Bailey, if you want to add to that.
I've noticed some of the farmers that I follow that produce newsletters typically do them quarterly, and that tends to sync up well with the seasons. So they're usually choosing one newsletter per season to kind of update you about what's going on the farm, or if it's an artisan or producer in some other realm. I've also noticed the quarterly updates are more about what events are coming that season. So right now, a lot of the folks I follow are promoting the festivals that are coming up. So if they're going to sell their art, they're kind of keeping you in the loop and a month out telling you that Pawpaw Fest is coming up, Nelsonville Music Fest is coming up, and they're going to be there selling their art. Or Molly, who works for Rural Action with Katie, she has a farm of her own and puts out a newsletter on roughly a quarterly basis. And it's timed up. Sorry, I got a dog barking. It's timed up with the seasons. So right now her newsletter is about like buying beef. She's about to send her beef to harvest basically. And yeah, so she's put her newsletter out asking who wants to buy beef this time of year, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, and I think to that point, Bailey, it is kind of a combination of kind of that storytelling, talking about things that your business has already done, and also promoting future things, promoting things you might want to sell, but kind of having that balance. So it's not just things that have already happened, or it's not just promoting things that have yet to happen. I think kind of having both of those is important content wise.
Sherry or Richard or Maria, do you have any questions that you want to throw our way while we're still logged on here?
I don't have any, just listening.
All right. If nobody has any more questions, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope we answered some of your questions, and feel free to contact us. We'll send out a recording of this presentation. I'll put it on YouTube, and there'll also be probably a PDF of the presentation sent out to everyone who's registered. So if nobody has anything else to add, I'll just thank you again and let you go on your merry way.
Thank you both.
Thanks,
Thanks,
y'all. Have a good
everyone.
day.